Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mandel, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Saturday morning. We're thrilled to welcome to the program Winnipeg Jets defenseman Dylan Samberg. Dylan, good morning. Nice and prompt. I appreciate that. Are you the kind of guy who's usually on ice, 10, 15 minutes before practice begins? Because I got to tell you, in my experience with professional athletes, getting somebody 5 minutes early does not necessarily happen every day.
First of all, thanks for having me, guys. But yeah, I guess this year, especially with warming up Hellebuck, I had to get on the ice pretty early, so I guess I just got used to it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you joining us nice and early. You mentioned, what's that like warming up, Connor Hellebuck? We've spent a lot of today's show talking about Connor Hellebuck, his future in Winnipeg. Of course, he's a year away from unrestricted free agency, but you guys obviously have that sort of close bond. How did that come to be? How did you end up getting that sort of honor? Let's say.
It was early on in the year. I got on the ice early, and they were looking for a shooter, so I said I'd shoot on him, and I guess he liked the way I was shooting on him, so he just decided to stick with me the rest of the year, and I started to enjoy it as well. But right off the hop, it was like, this is crazy. I'm shooting on a Vezina winning goalie, and that it took some time to get over that, but once I got over that, it was good, and it became really easy because we bond over fishing and hunting and stuff like that.
And Connor knew that you were going to keep that puck low, right? He knew you weren't going to bring it above the waist, right?
Yeah, I made sure I kept it away from his face.
Is that the big off-season activity for you? Hunting, fishing? Is that generally how you're spending the off-season? In addition to, of course, all whatever training you're doing.
Yeah, I like hunting. That's more of in the fall,
right?
Right when I get back up into Winnipeg. But as far as fishing, yeah, I love to fish. So my dad and I are heading up to Lake of the Woods actually end of June here. Wonderful. For a nice little trip. But I also like to golf as well, and pretty much that's about it, golfing and fishing.
not a bad way to spend the off season, I would say. But you also took a bit of a European vacation, and that was part of the reason why we wanted to talk to you. Your experience playing for Team USA over at the World Hockey Championships. I mean, those of us in North America, I don't think we really appreciate or really understand just how big of a deal the World Hockey Championships are, over in Europe. So this is your first time, I believe, at the World Hockey Championships. You have international experience playing in the World Juniors, of course, but just sort of how would you summarize your time? How would you sum up your time and the just experience in general playing for Team USA this past spring overseas?
It was awesome. I enjoyed every second of it, and it was cool. We got to see some cool places along the way. We started in Munich, Germany, and then finally went on to Finland. But any chance you can get to play for your country, it's definitely really special. And I cherished that, and I was fortunate enough that we had a really good group there that connected right away, right off the hop. And we had a really good preliminary round. The first U.S. team to ever go 7-0, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the medal rounds didn't go as planned or how we wanted it to go, but overall, it was a great experience. I'm glad I went.
Dylan, you mentioned the preliminary round. We have to talk about the overtime goal. I think you knew that question was coming because we were sharing that on the Illegal Curve. I think all Jets fans were sharing that on their social media accounts. A huge goal. It was against Sweden. I believe that was the game, the last game before the quarterfinals. As you mentioned, the U.S. was undefeated. Like, just take us back because obviously, the team success is paramount, right? But that must have just been an incredible feeling for you to score that OT winner.
Yeah, it was very cool, and it was good for our team. But it was just I'm not much of a 3-on-3 guy, so I just looked at one of the guys on our team, Pernovich, and told me, because he's more of a 3-on-3 kind of player like that, and I was like, what do I do out there? He goes, just keep moving your feet, and you'll be fine. And sure enough, it worked out. So.
There you go. That's it seems like a pretty good 3-on-3 philosophy whenever it's happening. Winnipeg Jets defenseman Dylan Samberg, our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Have you scored an OT winner before that?
I did in high school.
That
would have been the last one. Yep.
And I'm sure the feeling is just as ecstatic in high school or as a professional. When you turn around and you see your teammates coming to swarm you, it's got to feel pretty special.
Yeah, it was awesome, and it was good for USA Hockey, to see. I feel like every year we're climbing the ranks, on the world ranking there for the Worlds. But that was a really special moment, and I was glad I was there to have it happen to me. So.
No, obviously, the World Hockey Championships, are a different animal than the NHL. You play on the bigger ice surface, all that jazz. But what can you take? What can you learn from that kind of experience that then translate to helping your game at the NHL level on a regular basis? Is it just sort of sitting in the room and picking the brain of some of your teammates and some of the other players, or is there sort of nuances that you can learn from playing on the bigger ice surface that maybe subtly can translate into the NHL game?
Yeah, I feel like for me personally over there, I was able to learn more about my offensive side of my game, which was a huge help and great for my confidence. And I was put in different situations as well, which was very helpful for me. And that you have a little bit more time on the ice out there. It was kind of like between a regular sheet and an Olympic sheet, so and then kind of trying to find areas where you have more time skating away from guys, just to give yourself that extra half a second. But I feel like for me especially, the offensive side was really definitely a big boost.
Dylan, realize that you recently got back from Europe, but we've got Game 4 of the Vegas Florida series tonight. Florida obviously won Game 3 in overtime dramatic fashion. I just wanted to ask, first off, how much of the final that you've been watching, but also you guys obviously weren't able to get past the Golden Knights. But I would imagine that you're not at all surprised that the Golden Knights are in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, they were the best team in the Western Conference during the regular season. But just what have you thought of the Golden Knights run, especially considering that that's who obviously you guys faced in the first round?
Yeah, I mean they got a great team over there, and they were tough to play against. A lot of high end players that can make a lot of really good plays, and there's a reason that they made it that far, and it's you want to be there and be in their shoes, but still fun to watch, and I'm hoping down the road we can eventually get to that point.
Dylan Samberg, Winnipeg Jets defenseman, our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Now, Dylan, obviously, as you mentioned, the series against the Golden Knights didn't go the way you wanted it to. And then, of course, at the end of the season, there was, some pointed comments, I would say, from head coach Rick Bowness, and some of the players rebutted those comments. Given the end of the season, given the disappointing sort of end, how does the team sort of spend this offseason regrouping and retooling and sort of refocusing to come back next year and have improved results?
I just think we have a good team here, and everyone knows that. And at some point it's going to work out for us. Just unfortunate the past couple of years, with 2 years ago not making playoffs, this year making playoffs, and I think we're on the up. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Are you in touch with a lot of the guys in the off season?
Yeah, I'm in touch with a few of them. I train here with Nate Schmidt, so I get a full year of Schmitty all the time. So, I think it's awesome.
And he's got his daddy hat on these days.
He does, yeah, which is awesome to see. He's very proud of that, and I talked to him the other day about that, and he said it's really exciting. But I talk with Brendan Dillon a lot, Neil Pionk. You have a fantasy baseball league, so you keep in contact through that.
A fantasy, you see, I was going to expect you to say fantasy football. I assume you guys have a fantasy football league as well. But are you a baseball guy more than a football guy?
I was more of they need an extra guy this year.
You're the free money is what it is.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot, and I'll be living down here in the cities right next to Target Field where the Twins play, so maybe it'll get me out to some more games.
There you go. Not a bad way to spend. It's a beautiful stadium. Not a bad way to spend a day. Mm-hmm. If it's any consolation, Dylan, I lost my first 6 games in my fantasy baseball league to start the year. So as long as you can beat that level, then you're doing better than I am. Yeah. Dylan Samberg, our guest here on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Dylan, wanted to ask you about your last season, because obviously that was your first full year in the NHL, and we do our post game shows in addition to the Saturday show, and we talked about you a lot, because I just thought as the season progressed, you just continued to get better and better and better, and you mentioned Brendan Dillon, and it seemed like he took you under his wing, not to mention some other players that took you under the wing, but especially on the back end there. So just can you just kind of, for you, like, what was it personally, what did you feel like, how did you progress throughout the regular season, and obviously getting your first taste of the NHL playoffs?
Yeah, no, I felt like I progressed from the beginning of the year on, and I just felt more confident the more I got to play. And we had a really good group there, and everyone's, especially in the back end, everyone's pulling for everyone. And, nobody is ever afraid to reach out if they need anything or want to ask any questions. But, especially with Dylan, Pionk, Schmitty, they're, always asking me, talking with me. And I just felt more comfortable as the year went along. And, within the good group that we had, it made it a lot easier. And I felt like I relaxed more, started to play, just try to play sound defensively. And, I felt like I progressed as the year went on.
You talk about that, and your progression as the year goes on. Is it sort of a gradual where the game sort of slows down for you when you get your, first real consistent taste of NHL action? Or is it just sort of one day snap and then everything sort of slows and you begin to sort of process the game like you would have, let's say, at the college level or when you were really comfortable in a role on any team that you previously played on?
Yeah, I think it's more of like a gradual thing, I would say, for me at least. I just just learn every little bit about the game day by day, whether that be in practice, in a game. And I just feel like the more you're in certain situations, the more comfortable you feel down the road. And I felt like that was very helpful for me.
In terms of a off-season priority, you mentioned that playing overseas allows you to sort of playing at the World Hockey Championships maybe allows you to focus on a little bit more of an offensive style of game. Is that something you're looking to sort of fine-tune a little bit? I mean, you really sort of settled very nicely into that role that you were playing as a physical defenseman for the Jets, but still with some upside on the offensive side of things. Is that something you're looking to as a priority this offseason?
Absolutely. I mean, I always want to work on my offensive game, anything I can do to help contribute. And I feel like the coaches all year are always harping on the D to, join the rush and, break out your offensive side more and be comfortable with being in the offensive zone. And I feel like that's definitely a big thing for me this summer is just focusing on the offensive side of things and, being more comfortable in the offensive zone. And I felt like the World Championships really helped me with that.
Dylan, I wanted to ask you about Josh Morrissey because obviously he's been a great defenseman for a long time for the Jets, but this was, above and beyond that, putting together a career season. Should have been nominated for the Norris, but we're not going to get into that. But I mean, this is your opportunity to just gush about Josh because I mean, what he was doing on a day in day out basis, it was kind of, I mean, and there's a lot of good players on the Jets, yourself included, but you kind of ran out of things to say about the way Josh was playing. It was just incredible. It seemed like he had 2 points every single game, but just what did you see being on the ice with him this year? Because he was just I mean, I think the word incredible doesn't really do justice what he was doing on the ice this year.
Yeah, no, he's a great player, and he was fun to watch and like learn from. And at some points in the year, you just sat back on the bench and you're sitting back and you're watching him. You're like, this is unbelievable what this guy's doing. And he just plays with so much confidence and he plays free, and you can see that when he's out there. And he's a great player for us. He had a great year, and great guy, and can't say enough good things about him.
Well, Dylan, the business side of the game is never that far away. And of course, for the first time, you are a restricted free agent this offseason. How are you approaching that? Are you sort of just out of sight, out of mind, and you'll get a call from your agent one day and that'll be that? Or is that something that you are sort of, you're aware of and it's at the forefront as you're going through your offseason experience?
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to be aware of it. But I feel like for me at this point, I'm just, my main focus is next year and what I can do to come into the season a lot better and stronger, and what I can do to elevate my game in certain points. And I mean, the contract that'll come, but at some point, and just try not to worry about it too much right now and just focus on how I can get better.
So oh, sorry. Go ahead, Drew.
I was going to say, go ahead, Ezzy. I'll ask after.
No, I was gonna, ask a more lighthearted question as opposed to Drew asking the hard-hitting contract questions, Dylan. But you mentioned, you're close with Nate Schmidt in Minnesota, training with him. I was gonna ask you, when are you going to be available for babysitting duties? Are you going to wait until Harvey's a little bit older?
I don't know. I'll have to ask Schmitty, see if he'll let me be around Harvey.
If you need any kids to practice on, both Ezzy and I have young families, and you're welcome to come over and babysit for our kids as a test run before Schmidt Nate's kids, if you want.
Yeah, I might have to, because I don't think I've ever.
I think Dylan's got better things to do, Drew.
I would hope so. I think golfing, fishing, and hunting both sound more appealing than any of the options we've brought up so far. Dylan, a couple more, and then we'll let you get on with your Saturday morning. We really appreciate your time. I'm sure you're not a stranger to the noise and it's on every team, so it's not a unique to Winnipeg thing about players coming and going. And when the season ends, there's always going to be new faces in the dressing room, and guys that have been there before won't necessarily be there at the start of next year. How do you sort of handle that? Do you just realize it's sort of part of the business? It's nothing you can control, or do you just sort of, are you sort of glued to the news regarding guys that you've been teammates of yours for a long time?
Yeah, it'll definitely be different. It's different every year. Over the past 3 years that I've been in pro hockey, I've seen a bunch of new faces, which is obviously exciting. You get to meet a lot of new guys and build a lot of friendships, which is great. But some of the guys might be weird because you've been around for 3 years and then you might not see them. But I think we got a good room, and whoever comes in, I think will flourish.
There you go. It's good. That's good to hear. I'm sure Jets fans appreciate that assurance from you, given the way the season ended last year. Because that's the problem with pro sports, or the reality of pro sports, is that at the end of the year, with the exception of one team, there's probably about another 31 teams that are a little bit disappointed with how everything turned out. That's the reality of it all. Dylan, we'll let you go on this last one. I was reading up on your bio, and obviously I'm familiar with you, but I got to tell you, what I did not know is that you are a super fan of Dude Perfect. So, and that would be, according to the good folks at USA Hockey, that is something that you would be looking to do if you weren't a hockey player, is be doing trick shots with Dude Perfect. Is that right?
That would be really cool. That is definitely in my bucket list. I remember, this goes way back. I've been watching YouTube videos of them for a long time, but I enjoy the trick shots, and even during COVID, when we were up here, I set up in Winnipeg during the season. I set up some pots and pans and did some ping pong trick shots. So
successfully,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I have a couple videes. So
there you go. That's the important part. You got it.
Nice.
Something we all had to do weird things during COVID. I think that's
exactly
what we're learning about there. But as long as you got some success out of it. But those guys are pretty cool. I would agree with that. You Dude Perfect, definitely. Unfortunately, on this Saturday morning, you got two duds instead of a bunch of dudes. But we appreciate you you nonetheless.
How long has Drew been sitting on that one, Dylan? I feel like he's had that one in his back pocket for a while now.
He dug that one up. Yeah, I don't know.
I tweeted about it also, so I'm just reusing my tweets in the course of the conversation. But I appreciate you guys willing to humor me as I get my not so funny puns out in the course of this interview. Dylan, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great rest of the off season. When do you head back to Winnipeg? Do you know yet, or is probably still some time?
Not entirely sure yet, but somewhere early September.
Well, we look forward to catching up with you again real soon, and hit it straight. What's the handicap?
I actually I downloaded this app called 18 Birdies because I've never known my handicap before. So I usually play around a 2.
You don't know your handicap and you're a 2.
Yeah, I've never actually done my handicap. So one of my buddies told me I got to download this app. So I just played my first round on it the other day.
Well,
it's funny, Dylan, because Drew and I combined are 200, so you have us beat by 198.
Beautiful.
Dylan, thank you, buddy. Have a great rest of the summer, great off season. We'll catch up again real soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thanks a lot, Dylan.
Dylan Samberg, Winnipeg Jets defenseman, joining us this morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.